There is a rare level of psychological clarity that makes a person completely unstoppable. It is an internal state where hesitation vanishes, doubt disappears, and failure ceases to exist as an option. Today, you will discover the brutal ancient military doctrine that unlocked this mental state, and how you can use it to completely rewire your mind through the art of strategic isolation. Have you ever noticed how some people operate with absolute certainty? When they set a goal, they execute it. When chaos hits, they adapt without panic. While the rest of the world is paralyzed by choice, drowning in options, and constantly bargaining with themselves to avoid discomfort, these individuals move forward like a force of nature. The average onlooker will call them lucky. They will claim it is a byproduct of genetics, a privileged background, or a fortunate alignment of circumstances. But what the world refuses to acknowledge is that this level of focus requires a terrifyingly high price. It requires a willingness to destroy your own safety nets. Centuries ago, ancient military commanders faced a recurring nightmare. They would sail their armies across vast oceans to invade hostile territory. Upon landing on the enemy shores, the soldiers would look out at the massive opposing forces, look back at their own ships, and instantly begin calculating an escape plan. The presence of those ships poisoned their minds with an alternative option. It gave them permission to fight half-heartedly because retreat was always waiting for them. Recognizing this fatal flaw, the greatest commanders in history did something radical. As soon as the troops marched onto the beach, the order was given: burn the ships. Imagine standing on a foreign shore, outnumbered, watching the only vessels that could take you home dissolve into ash and smoke. In that single moment, your entire psychological framework shifts. Your brain stops calculating retreat because retreat no longer exists. You have entered a state of absolute isolation. You either conquer the island or you perish on the shore. This is not a lesson in motivation. It is a lesson in radical elimination. True mental rewiring does not happen by adding more habits, reading more books, or collecting more productivity hacks. True strength is forged when you systematically destroy your exit strategies. Chapter 1. The Spartan Hesitation. To understand how this ancient doctrine applies to the human mind, we must examine the education of the world's most feared warriors. In the heart of ancient Laconia, a young Spartan named Theron was undergoing his first overseas campaign. By all conventional metrics of the agoge, the brutal Spartan training system, Theron was a perfect specimen. He could endure freezing temperatures, march for days without food, and wield the heavy bronze hoplite shield with terrifying precision. Yet, as his unit landed on the rocky shores of a distant enemy territory, Theron was secretly wrestling with an internal enemy. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the dark waves, Theron stood on the cliffside, looking down at the massive Persian vanguard assembling in the valley below. His heart raced, his palms grew slick against the wood of his spear, and his mind began to fracture. He was well trained, but he was human. And because he was human, his brain began to calculate an exit. He looked back toward the shoreline, where the Spartan triremes sat bobbing peacefully in the surf. He realized that if the phalanx broke, if the pressure became too agonizing, safety was only a short retreat away. Those ships represented life. They represented comfort. They represented an alternative to the brutal violence of the upcoming dawn. Because those ships existed, Theron was only giving 90% of his resolve to the battle. His mind was divided between the necessity of forward conquest and the luxury of backward retreat. He was living on the autopilot of survival, reacting to fear rather than mastering it. His mind was fractured because it was trying to exist in two places at once: the bloody battlefield ahead and the safe wooden hull behind him. He did not need more training. He did not need a speech from his commander. He needed a shore with no ships. He needed to isolate his focus so aggressively that his survival instincts had no choice but to align with victory. Chapter 2. The Anatomy of the Exit Option. When you analyze the psychology of failure, you quickly realize that human beings rarely fail because a task is too difficult. They fail because the alternative to the task is too comfortable. The human brain is an ancient biological machine designed for one primary purpose: energy conservation and survival. It inherently hates discomfort, uncertainty, and intense cognitive or physical strain. Therefore, whenever you attempt to do something difficult, whether that is holding the line in a bronze phalanx or pushing your mind to its absolute limits in the modern world, your brain immediately begins searching for an exit option. For Theron, that exit option was the fleet waiting in the bay. For you, it might be the comfort of a fallback career, the digital distractions on your phone, or the validation of people who accept your mediocrity. The mere existence of these safety nets actively drains your willpower. You are forced to spend massive amounts of mental energy constantly resisting the temptation to retreat. You tell yourself, "I am choosing to endure this hardship right now." But a hidden part of your subconscious knows that comfort is just a simple, lazy decision away. Strategic isolation is the deliberate act of removing those options entirely before the battle even begins. When the Spartan commander ordered the torches to be thrown into the fleet, he wasn't doing it to be dramatic. He was doing it because he understood human nature. He knew that willpower is a finite resource, but necessity is an infinite fuel source. When you eliminate the possibility of a fallback plan, your biology changes, adrenaline increases, focus sharpens. Your mind enters a high-stakes state of cognitive alignment where all internal debate ceases. The question is no longer, "Should I endure this today?" The only remaining statement is, "I must conquer this because there is nothing else." Chapter 3. The Rules of Strategic Isolation. To implement this level of absolute resolve into your own life, you must follow 3 uncompromising laws of strategic isolation practiced by the ancient masters of warfare. The first law is the elimination of alternative preferences. In the ancient world, elite warriors were taught to master every weapon, but depend on none. Translated to your life, your capacity to focus cannot depend on external conditions. If a Spartan could only fight when the weather was fair and his stomach was full, Sparta would have fallen in a single generation. Strategic isolation means closing the door on your personal preferences. You must learn to execute in the middle of chaos, in the middle of fatigue, and in the middle of emotional discomfort. You isolate the task from your feelings. The second law is the construction of a zero-option environment. You must audit your daily life and identify every single escape hatch you have unconsciously built for yourself. The Spartans did this by stripping away all luxury, all fine clothing, and all varied foods from their youth. They created an environment where there was no alternative comfort to crave. You must design an environment where escape is physically or logistically impossible. If you are trying to master a skill, you do not rely on your discipline to avoid distractions. You lock away the distractions. You turn your immediate surroundings into a pristine sanctuary of focus where the only options are to stare at a blank wall or do the work. The third law is the point of no return. You must create commitments that you cannot back out of without severe consequences. When the Spartans marched to war, they did so under the gaze of their entire society, carrying shields with the absolute mandate, come back with this shield or on it. There was no middle ground. You must intentionally create a scenario where backing down would cause more psychological pain than moving forward. You must set fire to your own dock. Chapter 4. The Crypteia of the Mind. When Theron stood on that cliffside and watched the torches meet the pitch-soaked wood of the Spartan ships, he felt his old mind die. He watched the massive plumes of black smoke billow into the night sky, illuminated by the fierce, roaring orange flames. The vessels that had carried him across the sea were turning to ash before his very eyes. The internal friction inside him instantly vanished. His brain finally accepted the brutal reality. There was absolutely no escape from the dawn. The ship was gone. There was no sailing back to the safety of Laconia. There was no comfortable alternative. He was completely isolated with his destiny. When the sun finally broke over the horizon, Theron did not feel fear. His focus had become deep, heavy, and effortless. Because retreat was impossible, his mind directed 100% of its energy into forward execution. He fought not with the desperate anxiety of a man trying to survive, but with the cold, calculated precision of an immortal. This is the ultimate secret of the rewired mind. When you isolate yourself from the noise and the exit options of the world, your brain stops looking outward for validation and starts looking inward for strength. You begin to develop a profound sense of self-reliance. You realize that the anxiety, the hesitation, and the fear you used to feel were not permanent character flaws. They were simply the byproducts of having too many exits. Conclusion: the fire on the horizon. Look closely at your current life. Look at the goals you have set for yourself, and then look at the safety nets you keep nearby just in case you fail. Every backup plan you possess is a silent admission that you do not truly believe you will succeed. Every comfort you refuse to give up is an anchor keeping you tied to the shore of your current mediocrity. The ancient art of strategic isolation demands that you stop bargaining with your future. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, stop waiting for more motivation, and stop keeping your options open. Options are the killers of greatness. It is time to walk down to the beach of your life, take a torch, and throw it into the hull of your safety nets. Watch the structures of your comfort burn. Let the smoke fill the horizon. Turn around, face the unknown terrain ahead of you, and realize the liberating truth of your new reality. There is no return. There is only forward.